Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Thursday to everyone. So Bitcoin had a pretty good day today. Miners, not so much. Some of them were up, some of them were down, but overall it wasn't too bad of a day, I guess you could say. In this video, we're just going to take a quick look at basically if Bitcoin goes up to 150,000, basically like a 2x from where it is right now, what will the miners do? Will they go 3x, 5x, 10x? We'll take a look at some numbers there for it. I'll give you guys also my kind of thoughts behind the process that I went through this. I weighted it a little bit. Right, not every miner's going to do the same thing, so I waited a little bit based on where the miners are right now, but we'll take a look at that, obviously. We'll take a look at the Bitcoin charts, miners as well, see what's going on there, and then we'll get into a Q&A. But the Bitcoin thing was a request by the viewers, so I put that obviously out here for you guys tonight. All right, so we'll get through it all. Let's get into the nitty-gritty here. As always, not financial advice, for entertainment only. Please do your own research. I'm invested in finding coins and companies, and I'm not paid by any of the Bitcoin mining companies. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin charts, and we'll get into where could miners possibly go if Bitcoin gets to 150,000. So here's our first chart that we have here. Obviously, total network hash rate here right now. This is on the 7-day. It's come down a little bit more from yesterday, also a little bit. It's down to 629 exahash. We were all the way at the peak here at 657 exahash on the 7-day average. If we look at the 30-day average, it's still, we had a little peak here, 606, but we're back down to 602. And that's kind of what I'm going to be using at the end of the month for the month of May, when I start doing my numbers for everybody, for all the miners. And obviously we're going to start getting production updates next week sometime as well. So getting ready for that. That's kind of what I'm going to be using here, depending where tomorrow ends. But I'm guessing it'll be around like 602, 603, somewhere around there potentially. Okay, so that's still not too bad. And then we got the Bitcoin transaction fees per day. Yesterday we talked about it a little bit, that it seems like they were going up a little bit here based on the hash price, and we can see here that today they averaged at 37.88. That's actually a pretty good increase here, right? So we're definitely seeing some activity on the network, whether it's going to be runes, what's the other one, ordinals, might be having an impact there. I'm not sure, I haven't really looked into it yet, but it's obviously good for the miners, so that's good news there. And like I said, on the hash price, we looked at it yesterday, I noticed that it was going up, but the Bitcoin transaction fees per day was only like 19. Price was down a little bit yesterday, so it didn't make sense there. So I'm like, I think the transaction fees are going up, and sure enough, we see that now that today they have been going up. Okay, so let's see, hash price right now is at 56, so that's actually pretty good for the miners. Now going to Bitcoin here, Bitcoin was up today, was up quite a bit better. It finished out the day being up 1.14%. At one point, I think it was like almost like 2-3% up on the day. But we're still seeing that we're trading sideways, right? Accumulation phase is happening right now. It's kind of boring in the space, not much happening there. But I think that's a good sign going forward. We saw this over here as well. I mean, take a look at this. We were basically accumulating at this spot here. This was back in February. And then what happened afterwards? Nice rally up. I'm kind of hoping that the same thing is going to possibly happen here as well, what we've kind of been seeing here recently. Okay, so we might have a couple more days of the sideways traction going on. And then also tomorrow, I think we have the Bitcoin options expiry as well, end of the month. That might play a little bit of a role to it. But once we get past that, I think we're going to possibly do one of these moves again, where we basically went from 50,000 all the way up to 73,000 or so in a relatively short period of time. So we'll see where we end up at, probably 75, 80,000, maybe 85,000, who knows. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now, and we'll see if this repeats. Okay, now as far as the miners are concerned, Bitfarms was up quite nicely today, 3.21%, right? We don't have any further updates from Bitfarms or from Riot as far as what are they doing there with the buyout, right? The Riot is obviously initiating their hostile buyout. Mawson was up also nice today. It was up about 4%. Then we have Stronghold being up 2.9, almost 3%. Really no news there. Same thing with Mawson. Other than that, Hive was up 1.57, and then we had some that were down today. CORZ was down 6.5%. I wonder if this has to do anything with their compensation package that came out on the SEC website. I think it was yesterday. The S4 or the S10 report. But basically, what is it? 40 million shares going to be used as compensation and rewards, I guess, in there. I wonder if that's the result for that. Stock didn't like that, maybe, potentially. And let's see who else. I mean, a couple others were down. Cleanspark was down about 4%. IREN was down about 4.26%, right? Marathon was just down barely, almost 1%, so not that bad overall. So it was a mixed day today on the miners, but not that bad, all things considered, I guess you could say. Okay, and you can probably hear my dog barking upstairs. She's probably seeing a bird outside. But let's get into what else do we want to get into? I think that's it on this side of things. Let's get into where could Bitcoin possibly go, or what happens if Bitcoin goes to 150,000, and then where could the miners go? Could the miners go 3x? And of that, could they go 5x, 10x from there? And then, so let me give you guys a little background as far as how I started processing this a little bit here. But what I did is I took a look at where the miners are right now in their hash rate value per market cap. And I'm looking at the one, basically taking out the HODL position here. And what I'm doing here is possibly giving some of the miners that have a lower value on their hash rate for the future hash rate, maybe a little bit higher multiple than miners that are already pretty well valued here, like Marathon, obviously. Cleanspark's pretty high up there as well, not that high as like Terrawolf. But some of these other guys, and I also took into consideration the growth that each company has going forward into that multiple as well. And so let's take a look at that right now. Just to give you guys a little bit of background here on my thought process at least, okay? Okay, so here we have all the mining companies and still have all the details on them, their current shares outstanding, stock price, market cap. And I'm sorry about my dog barking, but my wife's out of the house and I'm down here. I'm not going to run upstairs and let her outside. She's obviously seeing something out there. But let's see here. So we're using an X multiple, right? So this is the X multiple that I'm giving him, that I'm applying. The low valuation here is basically a 3x. So if we look at it here, you can see on the formula, it's 3x, right, on top of where their current price is. And then I'm basically going, should they really get that, or should be getting less or more than that, right? Based on their growth, future growth going forward, where are their valuations right now and per petahash, things like that, and where they're going to be going in the future as well. On the high end side, we're going basically a 5x on them, right? And then same thing, where I'm doing the X multiple on here based on what my thoughts are about the company, future hash rate growth, current valuation, things like that, okay? Okay, so we'll go through this. So we have the low market cap here after the low X increase, and then we have the high market cap as well after the high X increase. And their future hash rate, what that's going to be, current HODL, we're taking that out as well. And we're looking at basically what their market cap will be on the high end side of things per hash rate at that point, okay? So we'll go through each one here one by one here really quick. We'll just take a look at the low numbers, the high numbers, and then you can kind of see where as far as their market cap hash rate will be with future high end side of things here. So BitDigital right now is at $2.48. I think they might get like a 1.5x to, what would this be? If we take the 5, and so that'd be, yeah, so that'd be 1.5 to like 2.5x potentially. And the reason for that is mainly because their hash rate growth isn't that great, right? So they got small growth, and then AI business is now known. They do have pretty good revenue on that side of things. So AI is known. We do know that they have about 70% margins on it right now, which is really good. But the stock is not being valued on it right now, okay? Next here. BitDeer, same thing with BitDeer. BitDeer, I give them X multiple of 0.8 on the 3 and the 5 X multiple, right? And the reason for that is sketchy financials a little bit here. Planned growth is not until 2025 as well. A majority of their growth there. So not a lot of growth here. So I give them 0.8 because they do have obviously the seal miners that they're going to be basically building. They're also going to be installing some new hash rate at the like Q3, Q4. So I give them a little bit more of a benefit of doubt. So at that point, we have them going to 1435 to 2392. And that would give them basically a market cap per hash rate of 252,000 per petahash basically at that point. And the market cap would be about 2.8 billion roughly, right? We're not taking into account any dilution or anything like that. We're using the current number of shares that we have for each company right now. All right, Bitfarms here. Bitfarms, I give them 1.5 mainly because they have really good growth going forward. They're going to be growing 3x from where they are right now, right? If they can grow that fast and execute on that growth. So they're at 7 exahash right now. They're supposed to get to 21 exahash. Really good growth. So at that point, I think they should be somewhere between $9.81 to like $16.35 on it. That would give them a market cap about 6.5 billion, right, on the high end side. On the low end side, 3.9 billion. But that would obviously value their future market cap per petahash at about 310,000 at that point. Okay. Next is Cypher. Cypher, I gave them an X multiple of 0.8, right? And the reasons is good growth upcoming, healthy financials, but a lot of that growth isn't until 2025. So that's why I kind of docked them a little bit for that. So at that point, we're looking at $9.12 to $15.20 on the high end, market cap between 2.7 and 4.5, and we're looking at approximately 266,000 per petahash at the high end market cap here right now. Okay. Next, Cleanspark. Cleanspark has obviously had a really healthy run up here. They're, I think, second highest valued company right now after Marathon, right? So I give him a 0.95 here. At that point, that would get him to about $48.65 per share on the low end to about $81 potentially, with a market cap between 11 million and 18.5 million, you could say, right? And that would get us to a market cap per petahash of about 329,000 at that point. So great growth upcoming, right, about to 50 exahash. So we got plenty of growth going forward at that point. My original price target on them was around $70. So that's in line with where I think things might end up at. If it can get us to like 150,000 potentially. Okay, Core I left them at 1 because I think they're just so highly undervalued right now. We don't have a lot of growth going forward. They do have the optionality to obviously replace their old fleet with a new fleet, which would basically get them to like, what would they get them to? That would get them to 30 exahash, I think, right now. But they haven't done anything towards that. They haven't purchased any miners, anything like that, so we're still going by the old growth there. So right now we have them at $15.69 to $26.15. That gets us to about 2.8 billion to 4.7 billion roughly, right? That would get them their market cap per petahash about 227,000 at that point. Okay, next here is Hive. Hive, I give them a 0.75x multiple, mainly because they're very efficient. They're way undervalued right now, I think, as well, but not a lot of growth going forward. So that's the reason why I did that. So we're looking at $5.74 to $9.56 with a market cap of 506 million to 843 million. And then that would obviously get us to a market cap per petahash of about 143,000 at that point. And my puppy came in to say hi. She wants to obviously play right now. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Where was I? Yeah, but obviously some growth ahead, great operations, healthy financials. If they could obviously increase their hash rate going forward even more, I think that would be beneficial to them. And if we look at the market cap metrics here, you can see that Hive is being way undervalued based on their hash rate right now, right? I don't think that's going to change unless they actually really come out strong with hash rate growth for it. So that's kind of what I'm using there for it. Okay, Hut 8, I give them 0.25. We really don't know anything about their future hash rate growth for self-mining. They keep talking obviously about being lean and accretive to investors on the way that they, I guess, energize electrons and how those are used. So that's the reason why I'm down a little bit here. So we're looking at about $6.69 to $11.15. At the high end, that would give them about $1 billion market cap right there. And that's your future hash rate is actually 7.3. This is actually probably high for them right now. I think a lot of these older machines that they unplugged are not going to get plugged back in potentially. Well, maybe they would have, obviously, if Bitcoin price goes up. But so we saw them at 7.3. They're operating right now like 4.6 or something like that, somewhere around there, around 5 exahash. So they're way down from that. And then obviously we needed to see obviously 1 or 2 quarters of their financials after being a merged company as well. But that's kind of the way I see them right now. Okay, Iris. Iris, I gave them 1.75x multiple. And the reason for that is huge growth going forward, right? Getting from 10 exahash to 30 exahash this year, and then they're targeting to get to 40 exahash sometime in early 2025 as well. So they have really good growth there. And they're also, if you look at, not this one here, Iris, number 3 as far as future hash rate growth, market cap to petahash value, right? 36,000. I think they can get more of a value there going forward because of their huge growth going forward. And also when they release the numbers that they're going to be growing faster and higher, the stock obviously did really well after that. So I think for that reason, I think the stock will do pretty well going forward. So right now I'm between $40.64 to $67.73. That would give them a market cap between 5.7 billion and 9.5. At that point, they might be valued around like 318,000 per petahash per their market cap at that point. Okay. Marathon, I give them a 0.75. Obviously, pretty good growth going forward, right? They're about 27, 28 exahash right now. They're going to be going to 50 exahash as their target. So a lot of growth there. Healthy financials, obviously, not a problem there. So we're looking at about maybe 45 to 54 to 75, 90. That would give a market cap between 12 billion to 20 billion at that point, which I think is definitely fair and doable, right? They might go even higher than that. We don't know. Same for any of these guys here. This is kind of just a conservative estimate a little bit on the miners here. Based on that, that would still give them a 414,000 per petahash value per their market cap. Okay, so still one of the top ones here, which would obviously coincide with, not that one, Marathon being here, one of the top ones there as well. Okay, let's see, X multiple. Next, we got Riot here. Riot again in 1. Obviously, really good growth for this year planned, 32 exahash or 31 exahash, I think it is. So that would get them to about $30 to $50. That would give a market cap about 13.6 billion, sorry, and 8 billion on the low side. That would give them about 333,000 per petahash value per market cap at that point, right? So they have great growth going forward. They just need to execute on their growth, bring on the machines, get much better uptime, and they could possibly get there, right? Terrawolf, I gave him 0.88x multiple on it. So we're looking at $5.38 to $8.96. So 1.8 billion market cap to about 3 billion market cap. That got them to about 297,000 per petahash market cap. Right, they have minor growth here as well. Bad debt that they've been paying down, which has been good. They do have a really good cost of electricity. Same thing with Cypher, right? But that's kind of the way I'm looking at things, where things might line up. Now, we'll see how close I get to these. I might get blown out, maybe shy of these numbers, maybe low, maybe high. You know, this is just a best guess estimate based on what I've seen so far in historical numbers, what we're seeing here as far as what they're being valued at right now. And it's kind of my best guess estimate as far as where things could possibly go. So let me know what you guys think of all of this, obviously down in the comments, and we can obviously talk about it also in the Q&A side of things, what you guys think of these numbers. And do you think that these were kind of fair numbers for all these guys here as that goes on, okay? So as always, my little sales pitch here. Patreon members get access to all my spreadsheets. The link is down in the description for that. It's $8 a month. Pay annually for that, you get 10% discount. You might still be able to find a couple spots that are like at $5 or $4 tiers, and you still get access to all the spreadsheets and to the private Discord server as well. Okay, that is it. That's my sales pitch here for you guys. And let's get into the Q&A side of things. It should be a pretty easy day. We'll call it a day too. It's Thursday, so also no video tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Everybody's busy out having a good time. So I'm going to do the same thing. But let's see here if we got any questions for you guys. Reading the questions or comments right now, trying to see if there's any questions in here. Hi, Sib, do you think this Riot business has put both a floor and a ceiling on Bitfarms? And if you had to guess, Bitfarms suggested the other suitors, who would you think would be the most beneficial? Thanks. I think there's a floor to the stock price right now, probably around 230, right, which is a good sign. I don't know if there's a ceiling to it as well. If Bitcoin starts going up higher, they come out with good numbers for May as well, as far as growing hash rate. Did they get close to the 10 exahash that they want to get to, right? That'll be important, I think. That might be a catalyst for the stock to go up higher. And then what was the other part of it here? As far as other suitors, who had to guess, and if you had to guess, Bitfarms suggests they have other suitors. Who will those suitors be? Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple companies that could possibly do this, and the only ones are probably Marathon and Riot, and just recently, maybe IREN, right? They've been playing on the ATM as well, possibly. So, like those top three there potentially. And then let me see, who would you think would be the most beneficial out of this? So, I think obviously the most beneficial would probably be Riot out of this if they got it, more or less. So any company that buys out Bitfarms at basically the offer price of $2.30 would come out pretty well on this, right? But I think if Bitfarms is able to hold them off or hold off the sale of the company and grow their hash rate like they're planning on doing, I think they would be the better ones in this to go forward. This is my take on it. These are pre-recorded, pretty sure. Nope, these are live. I've stopped doing pre-recorded videos about 2 weeks ago or so. I'm just saving a lot of time being able to do this. Plus, I get to interact with you guys, and you guys can ask me questions. I can respond to it. So it's a win-win a little bit. Let's see here. HUD is already, wait a minute. Now you got me questioning it. Did I not update their price? HUD 8 table. Well, they're at 9. Low end 0.25. Well, that's because I gave them 0.25 to 11.15. Let me see here. If we did a 3x on it, let me see a stock price. I should have done possibly. No, that still works out. 0.25, 699. Yeah, that still works out. I mean, HUD 8 is what it is. But yeah, it's definitely not that great of an increase for them. That's because we don't know what's going to happen with their hash rate. But you're right. It is definitely different on them. Let's see. How strong is your belief that Bitfarms hit their growth targets in time at the moment? In time ATM. I don't know. We'll have to see obviously for May. If they can get close to 10 exahash, I think that would be a good sign. If they're way off, like they're at 7 exahash now, if they only get to like 7.5 exahash, we'll have to see what the reasons are for it, right? Was something delayed? Was a connection delayed at the electrical power plant or the connection there, whatever that might be? What was the reason for it and why, right? So we'll need to see some answers on that. And we should get those answers usually we'll get those, I think, on probably Monday. Bitfarms is always like one of the first ones to report their monthly production updates. Let's see here. What ID Riot revise their offer and take it off the table? Then what do you see happening? What if Riot revise their offering and take it off the table? What do you see happening? Then I think that's going to be good. It depends if they sell their shares. I think there might be some pain, short-term pain in it. But at least I think investors know that the floor in probably Bitfarms price is around $2.30, right? That's kind of what the offer price was. But if they have other suitors as well, we'll see what the other suitors offer as well. So it's not quite over yet. Until they actually come out that no offer was accepted and they're going to continue their path going forward the way it is, that will be, I think, the best thing for the stock, actually. Mike Effort said on Spaces he suspects someone is buying up Terrawolf. What do you reckon? I mean, Terrawolf was up today. Was it up today? Let me see here. I think it was up today. Terrawolf. That was up a little bit here today. It was up 1.79%. Was up nicely yesterday. It was up 8.21%. Could be. Right. Terrawolf has some good infrastructures. They have good low cost of power. You just never know. Question, is it true that you sold 20% of your Cleanspark position? Yes, I sold 20% of it. It's basically what I put into it in the beginning, my own money, when I was dollar cost averaging into it. So everything that I have in there now is basically free money. It can run as high as it wants to. And the reason I did that is I was running some math on it. Just running the math on where I think maybe Cleanspark could get to the cycle, and then where do I think maybe like IREN could get to the cycle. And the way things looked, I'm like, probably going to be a little bit better off putting some portion of that into IREN to maybe get a little bit better gains this cycle, maybe. Right? I don't know if it's going to work out. We'll see. But that's kind of the bet on it right now. Don't you see the stock dilution of Marathon Digital to be a big issue? Can it still 2x from here with that much dilution? Marathon Digital, well, I know they have a huge ATM. I think it was a 1.5 billion still that's out there, but they also have a huge HODL. They have a healthy balance sheet as well. So I don't know. Don't know how much they've been pulling on it. We'll find out maybe in due time when they report Q2 results, or if they do any updates as far as the ATM or anything like that. That's the only time we're going to really find out on it. But I don't know if that's a big issue. As long as it's accretive to investors, right? That's the main thing there. Why do some miners have hundreds of people like CORZ and Riot, but some have 20, 50 people like Digital and Mara? That's because Marathon in the past was asset light. They're obviously growing their headcount now because they've purchased 56% of the infrastructure now is in their possession. So they're having control over it. So they're going to have more people at that point. Same thing with BitDigital. BitDigital doesn't own anything. They have everything hosted. So that's the reason why they're able to do that with a much lower headcount. But there's also drawbacks of not having your own infrastructure, right? You pay higher fees and everything, and then you're just not in control of your destiny at that point, right? You're at the mercy of somebody else, making sure that your equipment is up and running. Are you looking to buy any CORZ anytime soon? A lot of smart investors in the space, Spaceline, McNally Money, and DR Lewis have them up there in the top 2 positions. I am thinking about it. Obviously, now that I did the little transaction between Cleanspark and IREN, I'm happy with what I have for IREN. I'm happy with what I have for Cleanspark. I'm happy with what I have for Bitfarms. Now, any cash that I have available that I would normally have invested into like IREN or things going forward, right? Usually like weekly or every 2 weeks or something like that, I will be possibly buying into CORZ potentially, right? So it's out there. It's on my radar. I'm looking at it. How high do you think MicroStrategy goes this cycle? Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, people are calling it for to go to 10,000 potentially. That would be basically roughly, what is that, like a 6x from where it's at right now? I don't even know where the stock is at right now. Let me take a look at my chart here. MicroStrategy is at 1,500. Yeah, so that'd be roughly a 6x from where it is right now. Typically, MicroStrategy does like a 2x to 2.5x on top of Bitcoin. That's historically at least what it's done. Now, could this cycle be different? Sure, it could be different. And then sometimes it also kind of front runs Bitcoin, kind of gets a little wild, but then cools off and comes back down to reality. If I look at the chart, let's take a look at the chart here right now. So we'll take a look at Bitcoin versus MicroStrategy on it, see what we see. If we look at that one, we'll add MSTR to it as well. Let me see here. Don't I have it in here? I do. Same as scale. Okay. So you can see here now that Bitcoin is up 54%, MicroStrategy is up 162%. So MicroStrategy is up like 3x of where Bitcoin is right now. If we go to year to date, we can see that it's basically a 2x, right? 62%, 124% for MicroStrategy. So if Bitcoin does a 2x, I would expect MicroStrategy to do maybe like a 4x. So at that point, that would get them to approximately, what does that be? 6,000 potentially, maybe, right? Somewhere around there. That's kind of what I expect. Sometimes, like we see here, MicroStrategy can run up a little high and a little fast, but it does come eventually pull back down to it, and then corrects a little bit to where it should be really. So that's kind of what we're seeing here with that one. Let's see. Question: is it better to be invested in an American miner as it's going to be a crypto election year? I don't think it makes that much of a difference on that side of things. I think what's more important is you obviously have companies that are outside the United States, like Hive, Bitfarms, you have BitDeer, and I think that's it. BitDigital is obviously based in the United States. DMG, you got Digihost as well, being Canadian. Who else is out there? But the big benefit of being American is that you can be in the NASDAQ. You can be obviously in the NASDAQ if you're even outside the country as well. But the big benefit is if you have FASB rules apply to you, right? Especially if you own Bitcoin, if you have a HODL stack, that helps out in that regard. But I don't know if just being the U.S. company, if that has any impact. All this new Riot FUD has made us forget about Paraguay FUD. Yeah, I mean, the Paraguay FUD I think is done and over with. I think that's done for. It's been beaten to a pulp. What do you think the chances of them selling versus not selling are? I'm guessing you're talking about Riot, maybe selling the shares that they have in Bitfarms. The way I look at it, it's kind of like a win-win for them. If they buy out the company, it's a win. If they don't buy out the company, they sell the shares in it, and if Bitfarms goes up, 5x, 10x, they get to benefit on top of that. So it's kind of a win-win either way you look at it for them. So I don't know if they're going to be selling them. If they do sell them, obviously it might be at their loss potentially on it, which might not be the best decision there. They should have been using the capital anyways to fund their growth, do the things, instead of trying to put in a low ball offer for Bitfarms. Why not sell all Bitfarms to go in on CORZ and IREN and less risky plays with same potential upside? True, but I have a really, really low price average on Bitfarms right now. So if my estimates are anywhere near close to where I think things are going to get, I could still see, a 8 to 10x potential on Bitfarms where I have that. And then CORZ, like I said before, I've said this before, I don't like to invest in companies that have gone out of bankruptcy, come back out of it. It's always a little tricky with that regard. IREN, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, IREN is obviously, I think, is also going to be a good play going forward. But I want to be a little bit diversified. I don't want to go in on just a single stock or have two stocks. I always wanted to have at least like 3 stocks, and that's why I got into Cleanspark, Bitfarms, and later on into IREN as well. Wanted to get an IREN into 2022, but they had the SPV problem there, so I had to wait a little bit, but I got into them last year. So that's the way I look at it. Thoughts on BitDigital with Ethereum ETF? So you're talking about that's probably that cycle that they have written out, the repeating cycle, I guess, where they stake Ethereum, the money they get from Ethereum staking that then they use into their Bitcoin mining, right? I mean, we'll have to see how that plays out with the ETF. I mean, if people that are going to be getting into the Ethereum ETF, they're not going to be able to stake their Ethereum anyways, right? So you're not getting that benefit there. So this is going to be just more or less for people that are kind of lazy a little bit, I guess you could say, in that regard, especially if you're going to have a huge stack of it. As far as the impact on BitDigital, I'm not sure there's going to be much to it. Obviously, if Ethereum goes up in value, that's going to obviously help them out in the long run. But most of the time, the companies are not being valued on the Ethereum stack that they have. At least not now. We'll have to see if that changes going forward. What's your trading platform of choice and why? I've used E-Trade in the past. I've used Schwab in the past. I've used Robinhood in the past. I've now been using for the past 2 years or so Webull. I like the platform that they have. I like the programs that they have for Windows, apps for Apple, and for like Android and things like that. I find them very easy to use, very intuitive, and I kind of like the way that they do things. I like the system there. So that's what I've been using here for the last 2.5 years or so, 3 years roughly. And it's been working out pretty good for me. So that's why I use it. And that's basically because it's just easy to use for me. Question, I'm eager to know your Bitfarms strategy going forward. In which condition would you consider selling it? I guess if they have problems getting to their targeted hash rate, right? Also, if they get bought out. If they get bought out at like $3 or something like that, well, we know we're not going to get much more above that or anything like that. So at that point, I may just hold on until we get either cash or shares in the other company. And at that point, depending on who the company is, I'll definitely use the cash from it to buy a different company at that point. The other part is depending on the CEO they get. If they get a bad CEO, which I doubt that they will, that would be another questionable mark there. Or if maybe like Ben decides to leave there as well. That would be one of those things where I would probably have to question my long-term outlook on Bitfarms going forward. And that's maybe when I would possibly exit at that point and go into something else. Doesn't a very strong Bitcoin depend on a very strong stock market? How can the market keep pushing up? Are you looking at summer 2025 for Bitcoin at 150,000? Maybe a little bit before then. I'm thinking maybe like late Q1 of 2025, potentially, somewhere around there. It might get up there even faster, might get up there even by the end of this year, potentially. We don't know. I mean, we saw a rise in Bitcoin price from 50,000 to 75 or 73,000 within just a couple weeks, right? 2-3 weeks. So things can be very explosive in Bitcoin. Things can happen really quick. I just don't know. How is the current post-halving compared to prior ones in regard to Bitcoin price versus miners prices? It's pretty similar to what we've seen in the past. Bitcoin miners in the past were kind of trading sideways or going down a little bit. Same thing with Bitcoin for a couple of weeks, like usually 48 weeks, somewhere around there. And then they start to take off. We are currently at, week 6, I think, on being after the halving event. So we're getting close to that point where things might start looking a lot better for Bitcoin price going up forward, potentially. But we'll have to see. But post-halving, they're kind of similar, right? Prior to the halving, things were definitely different. We had the new all-time high before the halving. That never has happened before. So it's a different cycle. But as far as post-halving, it's kind of the same right now. How much impact do you think there is for HUT and CORZ being in the Russell, but IREN and BitDigital and others not? Yeah, I don't know what the criteria is to get into the Russell. So I have to take a look at that to really figure out what's going on there, why other companies are not in there, but those two are for some reason, right? I don't know, is it one of those things where do you know somebody at the Russell that can put you in there potentially? Or is there other criteria that has to be in that? I just don't know. Let's see here. I'm hoping they go more than that ratio. I mean, yeah, this is more or less like a conservative ratio, right? If Bitcoin goes up even more than that, you're looking at even higher prices, right? So this is pretty conservative, I think. My original target for Bitcoin this cycle was like 180,000. So if we get close to that, or if we go above that, if we go to 200, 250,000, well, then you're looking at much higher ratios, much higher price targets for all these miners. Let's see. Besides miner stocks, would you buy MicroStrategy or coin stocks? So Coinbase. Geez. I'll be honest with you guys. I learned my lesson on coin. I got coin when it went public. I thought, that was a great thing for the industry. Coinbase going public was the exit liquidity for those investors at that time. So given that where it's at right now and the way that it performs, I think the miners still have a better X multiple factor going forward compared to MicroStrategy and like coin. Some might do better than others, obviously, but in general, they will outperform those two, I think. So that's the reason I probably wouldn't get into them. Yo, dog, what if Bitcoin goes down or goes back down to 55,000? How bad will the miners get? The miners at 55,000, so we came close to that. Then we got to like 58,000 here just recently, not too far along. We may get a wick down to that, but I don't think it's going to stay there very long. I don't even think that's going to happen now. I think right now we're in the accumulation phase, and eventually we're going to go up higher. But if it did happen and we went down to 55,000, we got there and stayed there for an extended period of time, obviously that would be tough on the miners. At that point, network hash rate would definitely drop because you have a lot of older machines out there, like the 80, 90 terahash miners. Maybe even at that point, the 100 terahash miners might be coming offline, depending on the power costs that you have there. Right? So we would have the network hash rate come down. We would have the difficulty come down, which at that point would make the miners that are still profitable potentially with newer equipment be able to sustain their basically operations and their costs and things like that. They would be able to survive for a little while longer, but it would definitely be tough. Let's say hypothetically you had a higher price average at like 1.9. Would you sell your Bitfarms at that point to get into the other miners and leave all this Bitfarm trouble behind? Let's see, higher price. Oh, so if I was like 1.9 and it's where it's at right now, no, because I think there might be still pretty good X multiples to go forward, right? At that point, if we get to even like the $10, $15 range, you're looking at a 5 to 7x potentially, right? At that point, Bitcoin goes up much higher, obviously. So if you have a pretty good average on that, mine's at like 160 something right now. So not too far off from the 1.9. It just depends on your timeline. I've been in this for 2.5 years, right? What's another couple months? What's another 3 to 6, maybe 9 months gonna do, right? I'll either find out that it was a great decision to hold on, or I'm going to be breaking even at least, or be up slightly. So that's the way I kind of look at it. But I don't like to go swapping back and forth between things that I think are going to run up. That's how I got in trouble last time, where I was trying to time the markets and things like that. It's like, I'm going to have a good price. I'm going to hold on to it. We'll see where it gets to. Question: once Bitfarms announces a new CEO, the stock should fly again. Agree? It depends on the CEO. I think at that point we have Paraguay FUD done with. We'll have the CEO FUD done with as well. Now we just got to deal with the buyout, right? If they can get resolved as well, I think the stock will do well. But Bitcoin has to go up as well. Let's see here. If the stock market, NASDAQ correct 10 to 15% for some reason for short term, is DCA the correct strategy? I believe so. It still is. I think if it has a correction, we've had a correction last time with the pandemic. Remember, things went way down quickly, then they bounced back up, and you're going to see that possibly again as well, right? Correction every once in a while is pretty healthy, as long as it's not an extended correction. That's the big thing. But yeah, I think in this cycle, if we had a correction for like a month or two, and then things started going back up, I think DCA is definitely a good strategy. Let's see here. I have Webull myself. Nice. Yeah. I mean, so the system. It's pretty good. Let's see. Do you have the current number value per petahash for Soluna? What are your current thoughts on the Soluna stock? I don't. I've stopped tracking them since, 2022? I think when they stopped providing the production updates for each month. And the reason they stopped doing that is because they got into financial trouble, I believe. They've come out of that right now, but I don't know where they are as far as currently. I know that they've switched a little bit more towards hosting than for self-mining. I don't know how much even they have for self-mining anymore. Let's see. So I think we kind of covered that. Do you have a growth price projection for Soluna? I don't. Hi, Seb. I'm holding around 4,000 shares in Bitfarms. My DCA is 80 cents. Just curious which point Seb is going to exit 24, 25. Just curious which point Seb is going to exit 20. Oh, what year? 2024, 2025? We'll have to see. It depends where Bitcoin goes and where things start to get a little frothy, right? You always want to look for signs that maybe the market's getting a little too heated. Some of those signs might be your not your cleaning lady, but your dry cleaners or people that normally would not be talking about like Bitcoin or the miners, anything like that, start talking about crypto and things like that. At that point, we might be getting a little close to the top. So keep an eye on those types of things. And that might be obviously a top indicator at that point. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking also for. Plus, we're going to be looking at all these charts here. We're going to look at the charts for, I can't remember it now. But we're going to look at some charts. What are your current thoughts on Stronghold? Well, Stronghold has come out that they are looking to be basically bought out, right? So they're not even that bullish on their own operations if they're looking to get potentially bought out at this point. I definitely liked what they were doing with cleaning up the used coal and then cleaning up the sites as well. I thought that was great. But they had issues with operations where things were costing them a heck of a lot more than they were actually generating. So that wasn't a good business there, unfortunately. Do you track short positioning in mining stocks? Yeah, we track that as well. I talk about it monthly. We'll review that usually monthly. Once all the miners report their monthly production updates, we'll take a look at the short positions as well based on their current shares outstanding and shares float. What are your thoughts regarding stock price being Riot, the biggest public miner? What are your thoughts regarding stock price being Riot, the biggest miner? I mean, Riot's not the biggest miner. Riot right now is in third place after Marathon and Cleanspark, right? But that's on their own doing. Their production hasn't been great. Their operations haven't been great the past, you could say probably, what has it been? Probably 18 to 24 months or so. So it's of their own doing right now, and they just got to basically execute on Corsicana facility, get that installed, get the hash rate up in there as well, and then they have to obviously have a pretty good operational uptime in there as well, and then get some things fixed at Rockdale as well. And at that point, they might be doing pretty well. Don't buy CoreWeave when it goes public. Yeah, I think that one's going to be definitely exit liquidity. If you buy it, you're going to be exit liquidity for the shareholders there at that point. It's being way overhyped. Question: most people believe the market top will be 500 days post halving. Is that your thesis too? So the halving, I mean, 500 days would be basically what, about a year and a half or so, roughly a year and a quarter at that point. So it might be. That's kind of where we've seen before. We've seen it between 12 to 24 months, somewhere in between there, right? Was this cycle going to be like? I don't know. It'd be nice if everybody knew, but nobody knows, and that's why it makes it interesting. Do you think the U.S. miners get more money allocated in them by institutions? There is some benefit to this, yes. If you're a U.S. company, there's also some funds that will not invest in companies unless they're U.S.-based. There's a requirement that they have, unfortunately. So there is some benefit to being U.S.-based. Would your price targets for different miners change based on their inclusion into ETFs like SP600 for Mara, Hut, 8, CORZ for Russell, but IREN not added to anything? I don't think it would change, right? Who was it? Marathon was just included in something. Can't remember which one it was. And then we just had, obviously, CORZ get included as well as Hut 8. I don't know if that's done anything good for the stock here recently. I don't know when that inclusion is happening. But CORZ was down today, and Hut 8 was actually up today, just slightly, 0.78%. So I don't know. We'll have to see if that has any big impact. Private question: what do you do for a job? What have you learned, studied? Okay, so I've been with the same company for 28 years. I am as a director of operations there, and that's all I'll say there, right? I don't want to dox myself. But I've been there for a long time. What have I learned? Can't speak. What is it? Drawing a blank right now. Gosh. Bachelor's degree. There we go. That's what it is. Bachelor's degree in computer science and information, and I have a master's degree in business administration. And that's kind of what I've studied there. I've also read a bunch of books. Obviously, when I was driving to school, right, I have like a 45-minute drive, so I was reading a bunch of ebooks at that point, so just playing them in the background while I was driving, listening to them. Read a bunch of books as well in that time frame. A lot about what businesses are looking for, what businesses are needing, what makes a good boss, what makes a good CEO, right? What are things that make a good company? Good to Great is a great book. How to Win Friends and Influence People is also a great book. There's just so many books I could name off. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I have a whole stack of books that I could probably name off to you guys that have been really good. Let's see. I feel like more people are buying or keeping eyes on Bitfarms because of Riot's offer. What will happen if Bitfarms does not increase their 92 10xers next week? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we'll have to see what they come back with. At that point, we'll have to see what the reason is for it, right? Is it a reason of their fault, or is it a reason because of something in Paraguay where line didn't get connected by the electrical company or something like that, but it's going to get connected within a week or two, right? So we'll have to get all that information. But obviously, if they don't get close to like 9 exahash, I think it wouldn't be good, I don't think. But we need to see the reasons for it, right? There's always got to be a reason behind it. You don't think the cycle will be determined by the Federal Reserve, i.e. inflation data, and whether or not we get rate cuts? To be honest, I think we're going to get rate cuts one way or another. We have an election coming up. So they're going to want to make the economy look as rosy as possible, potentially, unfortunately. So I think we will get those. We probably will get those in sometime in maybe Q3, right? Maybe towards the end of Q3 and maybe into Q4 as well, maybe. But we'll have to see. I mean, the economy's not looking too bad right now, by what I can see. But I know there's some bad spots within it. Let's see how high do you think is the chance of Riot buys 50% plus how high of a chance do I think it is of Riot buying 51% of Bitfarms? Not very likely, I don't think. I think that would push the stock up much higher anyways. So they'd be paying for it that way, right? So it doesn't really make much sense there for them to do it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Maybe they can do it over the counter as well. That might not have a huge impact on the stock price, but man, you're looking at that point spending. Bitfarms is what, like 700 million right now, I think, something like that. So you're looking at spending close to $350 million on something you were trying to buy, and if they don't want to sell, why go after it? They should be actually concentrating on their own operations anyways, more so than on this. I think this is just a little distraction for them, potentially. Hopefully it's not a big distraction for them. Let's see. Would you sell Cleanspark for Bitfarms? No, because my average on Cleanspark is so low that it doesn't make any sense for me to do that, right? I'm going to ride the wave all the way up until I get to a point where I like it. And I have plenty of Cleanspark. I have plenty of Bitfarms shares right now, so there's really no reason for me to do that. Are you voting for Trump? I will abstain from answering those questions. I'm not going to get into politics here. What do you think of the Trump trial verdict? I just heard about it today. Haven't had much chance to read about it. I don't know. I'm neither nor there. Here's the way I look at politics. I'll give you guys this little insight. No matter who the president is in the country, whether it's Democratic, Republican, whatever it is, I have noticed that over the years, my life gets better regardless of who is in there. So I really don't care who is in there. Because as long as you're out there hustling and you're doing the right things to grow yourself and grow your family's wealth and everything else, it don't matter one way or the other who's the president is in there. That's at least something that I've learned. I don't know if you guys have noticed the same thing. I know there's a lot of political things going on between the two parties. I don't care. I really don't care. Because as long as, like I said, as an individual, if you're doing all the things to better yourself, to improve yourself, to grow yourself, it doesn't matter who's in there. Because you're going to find ways, regardless of what they put in front of you, your obstacles they put in front of you, you're going to find ways to go around those obstacles. That's just the way I look at it. Question, could you explain what we can expect from the special meeting for Bitfarms tomorrow? Well, obviously, Riot wants to get, like a board seat on there or 2 board seats on there based on what they have now, 10% of the company. We'll maybe find out what else they have in there. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I think they're going to be talking some governance things as well. We'll see what that is all about. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow if we have some details on it. Let's see. Special thanks for answering all the questions. Which are the least favorite miners and least favorite C-suite team? I don't have any least favorite. I have miners that are maybe not operating or growing as much as I think they possibly would or could if they wanted to really help the share price grow, right? So there's nothing that I really don't like about the miners. It's just some have better growth than some others. And as far as the C-suite there, yes, I do have some my favorites that obviously have done really well, like Cleanspark. IREN has done really well. Well, Bitfarms has been a mess here lately, but they've done a great job of getting out of debt and everything else and getting on a plan to get to 21 exahash. But recently, it's just been a nightmare there. Who else has been really good? I think Hive's been pretty good as well, right? Hive's been kind of consistent. They're always operating pretty well. Just not a lot of growth there as far as that is concerned. I think Frank sometimes can be out there a little bit. Remember the time that I was talking about people paying premiums on Bitcoin that were mined with ESG in mind and things like that? All that never happened. I didn't think that was going to happen. Nobody's going to pay a premium on Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin on exchange for the same price or for a lower price. Why would you pay a premium on it? Just because it was mined ESG? No, nobody cares about that. So sometimes they go off these little tangents where they try to hype their own things. But it doesn't really make a difference there. But the big thing is operations, right? How are they operating and things like that? So that's the way I kind of look at it. Let's see here. Technical and analyst chart guys keep trying to call the start of the BTC upswing and keep getting it wrong. Doesn't BTC seem too difficult to predict on lower timeframes? Yeah, and that's why I don't trade it, right? That's why I don't trade some of these mining stocks as well. I kind of just try to dollar cost average into them because I got my butt kicked last cycle trying to time the market and time Bitcoin, actually, the kind of tops and bottoms. Didn't do well. I would have had more Bitcoin now than I would have had more Bitcoin now than I do, actually. The Cleanspark is performing terribly. What's going on? I may rotate my Cleanspark to BitDigital. What do you think? BitDigital, not a lot of growth there. They do have AI business. That's steady there, but it's not being valued for that right now. And I think there's probably better miners out there than BitDigital as far as future growth is and where they could possibly grow. Right. Cleanspark, the reason it's not performing well recently is because Bitcoin's not doing anything, right? They got to get to 20 exahash by the end of June, right? They're at 17 exahash now, so we need to see a pretty good update here coming up for May operations. Maybe that will help. And then they also have to find, obviously, infrastructure to get to the 32 exahash that they want to get to this year. So if they can provide that, I think the stock will probably run at that point if we have a clear path to 32. Is June a bullish month for BTC historically? Oh, I guess I would have to look at the chart. I have to pull it up, find it again. But I think May is usually not the greatest month, I think. June is a little bit better. And then usually like September, October, November are usually like the better months there for it. I can't remember what July and August was. But you can probably pull that up. Just search for Bitcoin monthly historical performance or something like that. You should be able to see a chart of that, or a table at least. How many investors do you think pay attention to these spaces like this and invest using information, guys like yourself? Oh gosh, I don't know. I've heard it from like Sue at Hut 8 and from others as well that there are analysts that watch my shows, watch like Anthony's shows as well, and they get a lot of their ideas from us as well, and maybe look at things differently a little bit as well on it. So it's always a compliment when I hear those types of things, right? I really enjoy that. But I don't know how many total there are. I'm guessing there's going to be probably a handful, maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, something like that. Maybe. I don't know. Question. I know you don't follow DMG on your channel, but do you think they will pursue NASDAQ listing this summer? I followed DMG all the way through like last month, right? Last month I decided there was just not that much interest in DMG. Some of the smaller miners. So like DMG, Digihost, who else was in there? Argo, Sphere, and Stronghold was like the 6 that I kind of put on the back burner a little bit. I still follow them a little bit as far as what's going on with their monthly updates, just to kind of keep an eye on them, right? Because they could become the next kind of like Cleanspark here. So I am keeping an eye on them. But as far as DMG, what are the possibilities of them getting listed on the NASDAQ? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it recently. I think it would be great if they could. That would definitely be helpful to the stock. But I think DMG right now, they would need to do like a reverse split, I think. Because DMG right now is at 39 cents. So they would have to do a reverse split because they need to be at least above $1 on the NASDAQ at that point. So I think that's going to hurdle a hurdle that they would have to overcome, I think. 28 years, subscribe logged in. Yeah, I've been a long time. Ever since high school, I've been with the company. Great company, family-run business. Absolutely love everybody there. Let's see. Books are for losers, thumbs down. Oh, no, books are great. Books are full of knowledge. Let's see. First time catching you live. Thank you. Hope you enjoy it. Sebastian has been working longer than I have been alive. Yeah, I've been working for a long time. Hello, Seb. Any positive take on Sphere 3D stock? Can it reach $5 per stock if BTC price goes to 100,000 or past 100,000? It's gonna be tough for Sphere. They have older machines. They host everything. They're They're at $1.16 right now. Yeah, that would basically be a 5x for them with not a lot of growth, well, without any growth recently, at least, and I haven't seen anything reported on it. So that would be tough. I would say maybe they can do the same as Bitcoin does, maybe a 2x at most, 2 to 3x, I would say. 5 would be tough. Let's see. Bright is seeing in and buying a dip. They taking a leaf out of Seb's book. Oh, yeah. Well, they've been buying for Bitfarms for at least a couple weeks here to get to the position that they do have here. So, yeah, well, they're kind of taking the approach that Elon Musk did with Twitter. If you remember that a couple of years back, right? He bought shares of it. He got attention that way, and then he basically did almost like a hostile takeover as well of Twitter. Let's see. Secondly, what is your conservative price target for BitDigital in the coming months? BTC is 100,000. Same thing. BitDigital right now, they're not being valued on their AI side of things. That's profitable business for them. 70% gross margins on there. But BitDigital right now is at 252. They could get it to like maybe $5, $7.50, somewhere around there, maybe, depending. But I think the big thing that we're looking at right now is growth in hash rate. And I know that Digital is supposed to double their hash rate to, I believe, 6 exahash, but I haven't seen anything purchased yet. So I don't know if they're still looking for maybe places to put those machines at before they buy them. Not sure what's going on there. Let's see. You're buying first miner stock. What would you buy? Right now, I would look into, I think, IREN is a good one. Right? Great growth going forward. They have 3 gigawatts of potential going forward. What else do we have here that might be pretty good right now? You could buy Marathon. Marathon's got the name attention, right? Not their best operations, but they have obviously the name recognition there. Riot right now might be in a position where they get a little bit shorted because usually the acquiree of the company that's going to be trying to acquire the other company might get shorted a little bit for whatever reason, right? That's what usually happens historically. Who else would we have there? Bitfarms, if we can get past some of this FUD there, I think they have great growth going forward. They got Ben there as well. After that, Cleanspark, I would say. And then you could possibly look at like CORZ as well. And then after that, you could look at Wolf and Cypher as well. But they don't also have a lot of growth this year as well. A lot of their growth is not until 2025, unfortunately. So that's the way I kind of would go down the list a little bit there. Let's see. Question, do you think Bitcoin will suffer if we ever get a 3x bull BTC ETF? If we invest in BTC proxies for leverage, wouldn't a 3x leverage ETF directly compete with the miners and MicroStrategy thinks? Yeah, but that one's also probably going to be very, very risky, right? 3x, I mean, it's not as bad as we've seen on some of the other exchanges where you can go like 50x, 100x. But you can get liquidated relatively quickly here with Bitcoin's volatility. So I don't know how many people are going to be using it. There is right now, I think, what is it, BitX or something like that, where it's 2x on it. I think that's okay. But I don't think that's taking out the liquidity because even if you invest in net, I think they still have to buy Bitcoin at that point. I could be wrong on it. But yeah, I don't know how that would work out. Hey Seb, Sebastian, aside from yourself, where else do you think we can get more good analysis and perspective? There's a lot of good stuff on Twitter. Invest Answers does also some good stuff on the miners as well, but he does it like once a month. Anthony and Bryce, obviously, they talk to the CEOs there, which I think is great insight. A lot of stuff is repeated, but you may get some little tidbits as far as their mannerisms, right? Their behavior, their answers to some of the questions as well, right? So that's always good to take a look at there. Who else do we have in this space? We got people on Twitter like Penny, right? Penny is a great bear. He's turning a little bit bullish right now, but he's still a great bear. But you want people to make you think, right? What happens if the opposite happens? And that's always great to look at those. Who else? I'm trying to think. As far as on YouTube, I don't know who else is on YouTube that does it. Rex can be pretty good. Rex, I haven't watched his videos in like a week or so. Been just busy. But I think Rex is pretty good. Who else could be there? I think that's it that I can think of right now. Oh, Tom talking investing as well. That's the other one. Let's see. How do you think the average investor chooses their mining stocks? I think they're just looking at the ones that seem to be the most undervalued, unfortunately. We've seen people that obviously that got into like a couple companies where they saw it was undervalued, or at least they thought it was undervalued, and they got into it, and the stock has done worse because of it. So you need to be, I think, educated. You need to do your research. You need to find out what's going on with each company, what's actually driving the stocks up higher, right? There's a lot of things to take a look at with these guys here. And the great thing is we have a lot of information that they provide to us monthly. So we do have that information there, and we can track them pretty well. So just be mindful of that. Do you think the ETFs will limit the upside in miners? There's only so much capital available to go around. No. The capital that you're seeing coming into the ETFs, like the spot Bitcoin ETF, is basically from like retirement accounts, pension funds, things that would not invest in Bitcoin miners anyways, right? The investors that are in Bitcoin miners, we do have institutions obviously into those. We do have a ETF for the miners as well, WGMI and BitQ, I think is the other one. So we do have those vehicles as well for people that are don't want to really do the research. They just want to get a basket of the miners. So you do have that. But people that are getting into miners, there's a specific class of people that get into them because they want the leverage. They want the volatility in there. And those are the people that are going to be driving the stocks up higher there. Let's see. If I know DMG well enough, they will not list on the NASDAQ. Too much work for them. Yeah, maybe. I mean, plus they would have to do, like I said, a reverse split to get above $1 in price there. ETF changes happen every quarter, and S&P and yearly for the Russell. Both will occur end of June. If there is a persistent impact, would you change your minor positions? I don't have to see what that impact is on the ETFs. I mean, the ETFs that we have right now for the miners are WGMI and BitQ, and there's another one I think in there as well, maybe another one. But I haven't seen much of an impact on when they do their changes for the most part on the performance of the miners. So I don't know. Yes, they can obviously change the positions from like Cleanspark, I think is probably overweighted for some of these guys right now. They may sell a portion of it to buy into some of the ones that are maybe less valued, maybe like IREN or something like that. But I got that one anyway, so it kind of offsets any possible drag on Cleanspark that's going to be offset by IREN. So for me, it doesn't really matter there. What's the chance of getting more buying opportunities? Everything has gone up. Well, I mean, not everything has gone up, right? I think this is still, we're early in this cycle. So I think if you're still planning on getting maybe a 5x to a 10x, this is the time to be buying. If you can, dollar cost average in, obviously do your own research and things like that, not financial advice. But I think this is still a time to get in potentially. I don't know if we're going to have a better time than this right now, unless things really go south and if they do go south, I think it's going to be just for like a quick wick. Which miners aside from your holdings do you believe are the most undervalued right now? Besides my own holdings. I think Hive is tremendously undervalued right now, but again, not a lot of growth going forward. They may keep the stock down. Who else do I have there? After that, trying to think. CORZ, obviously, right? I think CORZ is definitely way undervalued, but we know it's because of the bankruptcy that they got through. They're out the other side, but it's going to take some time for investors to warm up to them, I think. But they've already pretty much warmed up to them. It's $5 something right now. So I would say that one. Who else? I think that probably might be it as far as things are looking right now. I think Wolf is pretty well valued right now. Same thing with Cypher. I still think Bitfarms is undervalued. And I think, I own that one. So I'm trying to figure out other ones that are not the ones that I own. I think that would be it. Can the previous Bitfarms CEO shed light and expose any Bitfarms dark side, or is there an NDA here to prevent something like this? I'm sure there's an NDA to prevent it. And, if he's trying to get any money out of the company, he's more than likely going to keep his mouth shut on anything that was going on there. Plus you don't want to burn your bridges and potentially, unless you have a whistleblower protection there somehow that he could use maybe at that point, maybe, I don't know. But maybe we'll find this stuff out in the court filings anyways when the court case gets reported maybe for him suing the company. Don't know. Okay, let's see if we can catch up to the questions here. Let's see. Seb, are you the new Blondity? Blondity was a great miner analyst that he disappeared in the bear market. Yeah, I used to watch Blondity. Blondity kind of gave me the courage to do this a little bit. I started watching him. This was basically in the bull run of 2021, 2020. And for some reason, he just disappeared all of a sudden. It's like, what the heck happened there? But Blondie had a lot of good stuff on there, right? He had his own little Blondity, what did he call it? Can't remember now, but he had like the Blondity score or something like that. But he did a great job, right? I'm not sure why. Maybe he held on too long to the stocks and got decimated, maybe. And he's like, I'm out of this. Maybe, I'm not sure. What do you think of NOSTR? Don't know that one. Not sure what that one is. When you invest, do you ever look at the boardroom? I do a quick look at it, right? So on all these companies that I talk about, I've kind of looked over the board, who the board is a little bit, maybe a little bit what their background is, but that's about it, right? Yeah, the board can have obviously an impact on the company. I look more of the people that are in like the operation side of things. And I look at their performance, their operations, their growth targets. How do they reach them? So it takes a little while for me to invest in a company. I started tracking Cleanspark in 2021 in January. I didn't invest into it until a year later, right? As we were getting into the bear market. Plus, I knew I wanted to get into the bear market. I just didn't know where the bear market was going to end as far as the bottom was going to be. So I'm like, okay, I like what they're doing. I like what they were doing, everything else. Same with Bitfarms. So I started getting into those companies back in 2022 after obviously doing some due diligence there on them. And it's worked out so far. We'll see how much longer it works out. But so far, things are going pretty good. Be careful with Invest Answers. A lot of his charts have incorrect data. But most of the viewers are too new to catch them. Yeah, you have to obviously be pretty mindful with anything. You have to be mindful with my charts. I could make a mistake. I've made mistakes in the past. But I always try to correct them, at least provide you guys with the right information afterwards. But yeah, you always have to do your own due diligence also, right? You can't just go off by what I'm saying here and call it the gospel, right? You have to do your own due diligence on everything with anybody that you're watching. Let's see here. Thanks for all you do. I found Cleanspark through Invest Answers, then found your channel, Great Alpha. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Rex is a fanboy that follows only one miner, probably Seb. You and Tom are the only ones that are worthy of viewing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, Rex does talk about some of the other miners, but I think he points out some of the flaws in the other miners more so than he does potentially in Cleanspark. But he has bashed Cleanspark from time to time. Right. Do you think the Hong Kong Bitcoin ETF will affect the all-time high price? Well, didn't that already launch, I thought? But all the stuff happening, right? We have the spot Bitcoin ETFs here in the United States. We have the ETP, I think it's called, in England now for Bitcoin as well. We have the Hong Kong thing happening here. We got pension funds buying into Bitcoin. We got companies buying Bitcoin on their balance sheet and putting it on the balance sheet as well. So all of this stuff, as we continue to have growth in the community, in Bitcoin, the belief in Bitcoin grows, I guess you could say, as well as an asset potentially. That's going to grow in value over time. As that all continues to happen, I think that's going to be more of an impact on Bitcoin itself than just one ETF here or one ETF there. I think it's just a combination of all the stuff happening here. Oh, we got Bryce in here. Hi, Bryce. Great show. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in. Question I have heard you state you only buy shares and don't use options. Is this the case? Yes, that is the case. I don't do options. I sleep much better at night. Seems to me several of the symbols have low premium call options out several months. IREN, Cleanspark, CORZ. Potentially they do, but like I said, I don't do options. Options are tricky. Things can go south on you quickly. So I just like to buy shares, dollar cost average into it. It makes me sleep a lot better at night, right? At times it was a little rough. Obviously in 2022 when the bear market was hitting us, it was rough. I was down 80% on Bitfarms at one point, but I just continued to buy into it, right? I believed in the company. I still saw great things. I was down 60% in Cleanspark. I continued to dollar cost average down, and I'm happy that I did of it because it got me so much better pricing on, or the average pricing on all these guys here that I do own. Why are you discouraged from investing in CORZ by the warrants? You say that even ATM dilution, as long as accretive, is potentially good for investors. CORZ warrants act different in your view. Yeah, I don't have a lot of understanding about the warrants. Bryce and Anthony had a great video with M. Sullivan, there, the CEO, explaining it, but it still seems like it's kind of over my head. I don't know why. It adds a little bit more complexity, I think. Not only if it impacts me and the way I understand things, how do you think it impacts regular investors as well, right? They see those things, they're like, huh? What? How does this work? Right? So I think that's kind of what's off-putting a little bit to investors as well. Plus the getting out of bankruptcy here just in the last 5 months. I think that's off-putting to investors as well. How do we know if any particular miner is utilizing their ATM? We don't. It's kind of hard to see. Sometimes if you see maybe like blocks being sold at certain times during the day, especially when there's good volume, you might be able to see that they're maybe selling there. Looks like Cleanspark and IREN having higher than usual sell volume lately. Suspected they're using, yeah, that could be possibly it, right? So usually if you see a pretty good day where they start out in the green in the morning and they end up in the red possibly by the end of the day, that could be one of those things. It's tough to say. That's why I wish like the SEC made it available. If you're selling those doggone shares, it needs to be like disclosed within 24 hours, right? So people can keep track of it, see what's going on there. I think that would be, we're in a different age now than we were in the early 1900s when the markets were created, right? You have all this technology that you can now use to, you can probably report on a real-time basis. We sold shares, bing, boom, it goes out there, everybody can see it, right? Why can't this be done? I just don't get it. Answer to me, late to get in? I don't think it's too late. Well, if the miners just do your conservative price estimates, would you still think too late to get in? No. I mean, if we're still looking at 5 to 10x in some of these guys here, I don't think it's too late at all. Where else can you get 5 to 10x profits in basically maybe like within 6 to 9 months potentially, right? You're going to have to basically pick like winning a lottery ticket or something like that, or you get really lucky with a company that just does really, really well, right? And that's really, really hard here. But with the miners, and as long as Bitcoin goes up in value, which we all believe it's going to do, you can get those 5 to 10x, I think, still this cycle. Let's see, your Safety State Marathon is not number one. They're number one as far as market cap is concerned. As far as operations are concerned, that's a different question there all on its own. I wouldn't rate them number one. I would probably rate them towards the bottom end of that part of it, right? But they are number one with market cap. And they have, obviously, the brand recognition with investors and everything else. Well, burn your bridges. This is what I mean. Seb, he's suing them. Yes, he's suing them, but I don't think he wants to burn his bridges when it comes to possibly getting another job as a CEO someplace else, right? I don't think he wants to be seen as somebody that's outing the other parties involved, right? Companies are going to be a little bit weary of that, I think. That's what I mean. Seb, drop the Blondie Discord sometimes when you have time. It's still around. Blondie had the BMXI. There we go. Yeah, BMXI. He was on Twitter until recently, gone after making some bad predictions in March. Yeah, I saw it, but was that actually him, or was that somebody else that maybe hacked his account or something? I couldn't tell. I actually reached out to him on it and didn't get much of a response from him. So I don't know if that was him. Why do you consider Bitfarms lower risk than CORZ? Well, I'll be honest, they weren't in bankruptcy, right? They actually survived the bear market. They paid down their debt. They have a plan in place to get to 21 exahash, which is obviously a 3x from here. The only thing that's obviously there now that's causing people grief is the CEO and now the buyout or the hostile buyout potentially by Riot, right? If it wasn't for those things, I think the stock would be doing a lot better. But are those self-inflicted wounds potentially? I don't know. Let's see. Do you think BitDigital and Soluna are undervalued? I do think BitDigital is undervalued from where they are right now, just on the AI side of things and just on their self-mining alone. They're undervalued. But the reason they're undervalued is because they don't have a lot of growth in their own hash rate. So there, as far as Soluna is concerned, not sure about Soluna. I don't track him anymore. So I don't know that one. Let's see. Question, isn't CORZ number 3 right? Number 4? Depending... and what metrics are you looking at, or what valuations are you looking at that point? if CORZ executed their warrant, is there still any risk? I think they have two warrants, right? One gets executed at 681, the other one gets at $8 something. The $8 one is a penny warrant, if I remember correctly. At that point, that's going to create dilution, right? So there is obviously going to be some dilution there. We know about that, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I think CORZ is way undervalued from where they really should be, right? So don't get me wrong there. It's just I need a little bit more time before I pull the trigger. What's up, McNally Money? Please press for that Ben interview. Push it to get it done earlier. Yeah, that'd be great to have him. I know that Ben obviously has postponed on them 3 times now, I think, two or three times. So it would be nice to get Ben on there. I'd definitely be watching that one to see what's going on there. I don't know how much Ben can actually say of what's going on there. But it would still be nice to see where he sees the current hash rate growth, where it's going, and then, you know, their future hash rate growth potential. Are they still on track for that? Obviously, the press release from yesterday stated that they are, but we'd like to get some, well, just get Ben's statement on it. Can you briefly explain what mining pools are and how miners choose which to enter? Okay, well, there's some that you can't enter unless you have a certain amount of exahash. I think Foundry is one of those. So there's Foundry, you got Antipool, there's also via BTC, and there's other ones as well. So the way the mining pools work is, say you have one miner here, one miner there, right? And you basically pull your resources together as far as hash rate is concerned to then mine the blocks on the network. And then you basically share the rewards out of that based with what your percentages of the mining pool is. You get the percentage of that block rewards that pool gets. Okay. The way you would choose which pool to use would be possibly look at fees, and then can you actually get into one, right? That's, some may have a restriction that you need to be like 2 exahash, 3 exahash in size, whatever it might be, in order to join that pool in the first place. And then you just want to look at the fees, things like that. What are they doing there? All that stuff. Reputation, right? Do they pay out all the time? All those things, you want to take a look at that. Would it be wise to stay in Bitfarms? That is up to you. I'm staying in it because I have a really low cost average on them. So I'm staying in because I want to see where this goes through. And if it goes through where they stay as a, you know, their self-mining business stays intact, they're not bought out by anybody else, I think that the stock has definitely really good potential going forward based on their growth going forward. Let's see. Thank you for your opinion and point of view. You're very welcome. So you're saying no, it should be Blondity, not a hacked account. Yeah, I don't know, right? But yeah, he was on there for what, a couple weeks, couple months, and then is he gone again? Not sure what's going on there. Which stocks do you believe will 10x, or will all of them 5 to 10x if BTC rises? I think, yeah, 5 to 10x for a majority of these miners are definitely a potential. I think IREN has a little bit maybe higher percentage of going to 5 to 10x. I think they're still undervalued tremendously here. Bitfarms, same thing. If you just look at some of the metrics, comparing the net market cap to the hash rate that they have, so petahash, right? Do the comparison there. You can see the undervaluation there. But most of all, I think miners will do it between 5 and 10x, I think. But we'll have to see. Would Ethereum ETF delay BTC peaking? No, I don't think so. You got a heck of a lot more people interested in Bitcoin than you do in Ethereum. Hey man, if no BTC miner existed, where would you invest in the NASDAQ? Great show as always. All the best. Thank you for that. Best to you as well. I don't know where I would invest. I'll probably get into technology side of things, technology stocks, high growth stocks, right? Things like that. And see if I can maybe do some metrics on those guys, comparing each company to each company, and see where things are maybe improving the best, or best operations or things like that at that point. Also probably get into companies that, I mean, might be now too late, but obviously things that I've probably should have invested in the past was when I started using services like Amazon, probably should have invested in that. When I changed over from Windows machines to Apple computers, I probably should have bought Apple back then. We're going back like 14, 15 years ago. Just things that I start using daily, I think I've noticed will end up going up in value later on in, 5, 10, 15 years. So it's tough. Is there any time frame where the miner has to utilize their ATM by 1 month, 3 months? It's tough to time but I'll try to DCA whenever the price dips, particularly for iron. Yeah, there's no time frame usually. I don't think there's even a time limit on it as far as how long it can take you to use up that ATM. The majority of miners, obviously, if they're growing, they're going to be doing it within 3 to 6 months usually. Last one that Cleanspark had 500 million, they did it in basically like 3 months, I think. Like $500 million, just ATM, 500 million in their pocket, right? And then they now have another ATM for 800 million. Don't know how long it's going to take them to use that up. So, yeah, I don't know about that one. Why not buy some MicroStrategy if it could 4x if BTC goes 2x? I know that isn't as good a return as the miners you've invested in, but that seems like a good return. At least half of the miners right. Half of the miners right. Yeah, I mean, MicroStrategy is not a bad one, right? MicroStrategy, I think, is a great one to get into. But if you're looking for that higher return, which I'm looking for, that's why I do go into the miners, right? I don't go into all the miners. I look for the miners that have great operations, great performance, great growth going forward. All those things that I look for in a miner. And that's kind of the way I've been doing it. And we'll see how it works out. Right now, it's outperforming. I don't know if it's outperforming. I think, right now, it should be outperforming. I think with my Cleanspark, I was up 400% on it. And then right now, I'm up like 80% on Bitfarms, which is obviously underperforming MicroStrategy, but in the long run, I think it will do much better. So that's the way I kind of look at it. And also the price target right now. I mean, if you're looking at, oh man, it would be, how many shares could I actually get? I would have to sell like all the miners and then buy maybe 1,000 shares of, 1,000 or 2,000 shares of MicroStrategy at that point. Hey Sebastian, do you have arguments with your dad over CORZ since he is a big holder? No. I wish him obviously the best in there. He's been in there for a long time. We still talk about it obviously sometimes, and we're both trying to figure out all the stuff that's happening around the warrants. What happens when the warrants exercise? What happens to those warrants that he has? How do they transfer over into shares? And then for like the first tranche at 681, what about the second one? What happens with that? So we're trying to figure all that stuff out still. And we may actually go to like a broker or something like that to actually get maybe a good answer there. Price of MicroStrategy, I think it's going to do 2x of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin goes up 2x, you're looking at maybe, let's say Bitcoin goes up, 2x, you're looking at basically 2x on top of that, so 4x from where it's at right now. So maybe 6,000 for MicroStrategy. How many shares of a miner could you buy for just one share of MicroStrategy? I mean, MicroStrategy is at what, 1,200 right now? Let me take a look. 1,500. Okay, wow, it's even higher than that. So, I mean, you could buy basically 100 shares of, roughly 100 shares of Cleanspark. You could buy, right, 100 shares times 15. Yeah, that's 1,500. You could buy about 200 shares of IREN, roughly, somewhere around there. So you could definitely buy more shares. Let's see. On Riot offer for Bitfarms, why are they doing this other than undervalued? Seems like it may be a play to maximize the hash rate percentage. Yeah, it could be that. I mean, obviously they would get to be probably one of the biggest miners there at 52 exahash combined. And then they also have operations in Paraguay, Argentina, US, and Canada as well. So very well diversified. You're not at a risk of something happening in Texas, which both of their facilities are in Texas. So there's other benefits to them buying Bitfarms than just exahash. You can buy fractional shares of MicroStrategy. Yeah, you can buy fractional shares. But then again, I don't know. I'm not against buying MicroStrategy. If you want to buy MicroStrategy, I think you'll do great. But I think you can still probably do better with the miners. And that's just the way kind of I see things. Any thoughts on Galaxy? So Galaxy with Mike, what's his name there? Mike Novogratz. They own a facility that used to be Argo's, Helios, right? They do hosting there as well. I don't know how much they've built out that. I don't really track them. They don't report monthly production updates. That's one of my criteria there. Let's see. Hive possibly 3 to 5x, still holding 1,000 shares at 197. Yeah, I think still 3 to 5x for them. I think maybe 3 to 4x. They don't have a lot of growth there, so I think if Bitcoin goes to 2x, I think they could still 3x or to 4x, somewhere around there. how far we might be before BTC and miners break out for this consolidation phase. In the next couple of weeks, possibly. We'll have to see. Nobody has a crystal ball on that one. I mean, you just got to be patient, unfortunately. Okay, and then would you be, last question here, would you be able to invite some institutional investors on to get their take on what they value? Geez, I would have to find some to begin with. Probably have to go on Twitter searching for people like that. As far as what they value, I think they've become more educated this cycle than they were last cycle. There's been more people like me doing this kind of stuff. There's a lot more people on Twitter. And overall, I think the whole sector has gotten more educated on what it takes to become a good miner. And, you know, even the company CEOs, they're talking to the institutional investors and things like that. What are they doing? What's important? What things to really look at? Hash rate, hash price, hash cost, all those things, efficiencies, your uptime, all those things are important. So I think they know. But I think they're also valuing growth. I mean, you saw that with Cleanspark, right? Their growth, how their stock has done after that. You saw it with IREN. IREN came out that they're going to increase to 30 XS by the end of the year, move up to 20 XS by the end of Q3. Stock ran up. So I think you're seeing what investors are looking for, or at least institutional investors are looking at. And then you can also see where the institutional investors are buying into the companies, right? If we look at those, you can see it there as well. So I think, everybody's getting more educated, which is great. Because that's the end goal here, is for as many people to be educated about how this all works, because it is pretty intricate when you take a look at all the little things that have to go right for the miners, the different strings that can affect how they're profitable, how they're not profitable, and all that stuff that happens there. So it is a lot, right? And they secure the network. So they're super important to the Bitcoin network to be able to be profitable and to be able to continue, obviously, securing the network going forward. Let's see here. Okay, we got maybe one more question. Why did you sold all of your clam? Not sure what you mean by that. Cleanspark, maybe is what you wanted to say. I didn't sell all my Cleanspark. I only sold 20% of it. So basically what I put into it with my own money. So I basically took my money back out. The rest is all profit, 100%. That can run up to as high as it wants to right now. But that was just a calculated move there. I think maybe going into IREN a little bit right now. IREN's a little bit more undervalued than Cleanspark is. I think there might be a little bit more upside there. We'll see if it works out that way. Is there any problem by chance with Cleanspark? No, I don't see any problem with Cleanspark. Cleanspark's still the top operator here, as well as I think IREN and Bitfarms as far as operations are concerned, but there's no problem there. Is the Kenya deal with Marathon a part of their 50x growth plan, or is this something extra? That's something different. Marathon has the infrastructure right now, they say, to get to 50 exahash without having to buy any additional infrastructure. They can just expand out what they already have. So that is it. Okay. So that's it, guys. We'll call it a day. We've been going here on almost an hour and a half. Boy, these live streams really go by fast, and I do enjoy them. They're fun. You guys make me think a lot of times too, which I enjoy. So I think we'll call it a day as always. Thank you so much for coming to watch this video. Tomorrow we won't do a video. Tomorrow's Friday. You guys are always busy, going out with your friends, family, loved ones, whatever you might be doing on Fridays, going to movies, things like that. So we'll take a break tomorrow as well. We'll get into swing of things maybe on Saturday. I got to find out from the BTC mining stock guy if we're going to be doing Spaces on X on Saturday or not. If we don't, I'll do maybe something here, but then we'll take maybe like one of the days off during the weekend as well. But that is it. So I appreciate you guys so much for coming in to watch this. Appreciate all the questions. You guys asked great questions, a lot of interesting stuff in there, so I do appreciate it. Keep them coming. Keep up thinking of new questions for the next live stream. All right. I'll see you guys probably on Saturday or Sunday. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, wonderful Friday, and we'll see what happens there. Unless something happens tomorrow drastic, maybe I'll do like a quick live stream tomorrow if something happens drastic. Otherwise, no live stream tomorrow. Okay, have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I won't see you tomorrow. I'll see you guys in the weekend. Bye.